Hello, I'm Julie McGee, and like quite a few other women in the room, I'm a volunteer for Filia, and I also do some work for Filia. I'm the Scottish lead, and I'm also leading on the Filia Women's Assembly. So on your tables just now, there should hopefully be wee postcards that tell you a bit about the Women's Assembly, and I'm just going to spend about 5 minutes telling you a bit more and telling you about some of the training and the events that we've got coming up related to that. First of all, I became involved in Filia whenever they came to Glasgow, and it blew my mind. The next Filia is in October this year, and it's down in Brighton. It's quite far away from Scotland, I totally get that, but there's 30 quid flights to Gatwick, then you're straight from the airport onto a train and you're in Brighton. I went through some really strange process. I think it was like one of those cashback sites, and then onto booking.com, and I got a hotel in Brighton on the Sunday night for £7. So I know that'll probably be the most exciting thing I say, but book now. Seriously, I get so excited about it. I spent another £7 insuring it so that they can't knock me back. But there's 3,000 women going, so if you're going, book now, get cheap accommodation. There's loads of Scottish women going down there. Filia is the kind of thing that you can honestly go to yourself. And if this is Hug Central, as Anne-Marie Ward said, then you really need to go to Filia and see what that's like. But anyway, so Filia organised the largest grassroots feminist festival, I'm getting a cheer from Kathy at the back, in Europe, but probably the world. And they do it with, thank you, we do it with zero conference funding. It's run entirely off the backs of volunteers. I think it was Glenner or whatever you call him, had once put something on Twitter about Filia, about like their headquarters being in New York. And the chief exec, who lives in a van, was reading this like in the rain some Friday night, parked in a car park or whatever. So it's a grassroots organisation. But we were lucky enough to get some funding last year. Women have been saying to Filia for years, we want you to get involved in campaigns, we want you to get involved in policy, but there was really no capacity to do it. And then we managed to get funding for a 3-year pilot, which is kind of nothing short of amazing, to be honest. It was really important that, so what the project's about is getting women's voices into the political and policy spheres, and it was really important to us whenever we were developing how we were going to do that we were speaking from an authentic place, that we really understood what was important to women, what campaigns they were involved in, and what the barriers were. So to do that, we hired teams of mappers to work up and down the UK and all of the Filia cities. So let's see if I can remember them all. So that's Manchester, Bradford, Cardiff, Portsmouth, Glasgow, and now Brighton as well. So some of the women in this room probably took part in the research. We asked women what they were involved in, what campaigns were important to them, what was stopping them getting a place at the table, what was stopping them having their voices heard. We also hired a social researcher to look at policy documents, and we also did some really interesting research in unions, which could be a presentation on itself today, but I don't have time to go into it, but it was amazing. There's podcasts and articles about it on the Filia website, and if anybody's interested in finding out more, come and speak to me. But also on the tables there's bookmarks about the Filia Trade Union Women's Network, which has arisen in response to that. And there's a webinar, which I think is on the 2nd of April, but I might have got the date wrong for that, so check that. There was themes that came out from Cardiff to Glasgow to Portsmouth, and the themes were very similar, and the themes will not surprise you. Women were concerned about single-sex spaces, but women were also concerned about poverty, the cost of living, women's health, and violence against women and girls. Quelle surprise. Women were really concerned about sexual exploitation. That came up as a really, really strong theme. So what we've done, so that we can continue to keep in touch with women, so what we're going to do, first of all, is put on a series of events and training. We're going to, we've already started working on them, we're nearly ready to launch them. We have toolkits for women involved in activism and campaigning that are geared towards women entering the policy sphere. But we needed a way to keep in touch with women, and we also needed a way to make sure that our understanding of what women need remains relevant. We're not going to make any assumptions around that. So what we've come up with around this is the Filia Women's Assembly. So it's this wee leaflet here. It's very straightforward and simple. It's got like Filia's aims, what we overall intend to do, and then it's got what our commitment is if you decide to join. You can use the QR codes, or there's also links in the website. It does all ask a lot of questions, but you don't have to answer them all. The only thing you really need to do is give your email address or a email address, and that's it. The reason that we ask demographic questions is so that, see, whenever there's consultations that come in that relate to women, we can direct our contact with those women who are likely to be the most interested according to the demographics. And then what we'll do is we'll invite women to events, both online and in person, that break down the consultation and support women to get in there and to identify paths through which they can start to influence. We've already got quite a few training and events set up, not just in Glasgow, we've got them up and down the country, but I'm kind of thinking this audience will not be dead interested in media training in Brighton next week, so I'm going to focus on the things that are happening here. So I think in terms of like timelines, the first thing that we've got coming up was in direct response to the research where women said there's no longer any like women's centres, there's no longer like that many places where women can just come to meet. So we've set up, and I can't say it looks better written down, Filia's Feminist Friday, which is a discussion group. It's ran along consciousness raising and a consciousness raising model, but it's not consciousness raising, it's an open group. We tend to have a topic that we discuss each week. Then we highlight like where there are like kind of issues that Filia can then take back. Like for example, in the first one, women raised 2 issues. One was about the lights, and the other one was about women's groups campaigning for women's campaign groups access and funding. So what we did from that, for every ask, we try to respond where we can. So we've arranged training on funding for women and girls groups by a brilliant woman who totally knows her stuff. She's got 30 years of experience in Scotland around this, so she'll be delivering a session on that. If anyone's interested, the information will come out probably through the Women's Assembly mostly in that, or just speak to me around about it. The Filia's Feminist Fridays in Glasgow are on the last Friday of the month. So we have the discussion, we have the obligatory feminist cakes. Sometimes I think, you know, like we come together as women to talk about these harsh and brutal subjects, and then we say, and there's cake. Do you know, but there's something about like nourishing women as well, isn't there? And then we go to the pub and the conversations continue there. It's brilliant. I hope some of you come, but I hope you don't all come because it'll be an absolute nightmare. The next event we're doing after that is with Ash Regan around the Unbuyable campaign. All of our events are going to focus on women coming away with skills, women coming away with a plan for action. If the event doesn't have a toolkit with it, it will have very clear asks of women, and it'll have very clear information where women themselves can be active. Going back to what Linda said this morning, I don't know if she's still here, but it's time to act. She's there. You're not trying to get me off like I was trying to get you off. So they're not tea and cake events. They're not coming like hear about the horrible things that are happening to women. They're events where we believe that every woman in this room has got the capacity to make a difference. And these events are aimed and arranged in line with that. So not only will we hear more about the bill, we'll hear from other speakers as well around what we can actually do to make a difference. That's Ali, pure starting then. The next event after that, I cannot wait. It's called Just a Bit of Fun, the reality of Glasgow's strip clubs. It's not acceptable for women to be on show. It's not acceptable for this to be a form of entertainment. And because in Glasgow this has largely been behind closed doors in parts of the city where it's not visible, they get by on it. One of them's moved down to like near where Central Station is. Somebody today was talking about seeing like these poor women like lining up, waiting to go in each night. It's time to do something about this. So Unfortunately, we had to cut Linda, but we didn't really cut her. We let her go way over her time, if I'm being honest. But she's a brilliant speaker. This is going to be an amazing event, and I hope everybody comes to it. I think that's also me. I've got one other thing. I pure hate Twitter, and I keep having breaks from it, and then I go back onto it. And I went onto it the other day, and I saw something that was written, and I thought it was a poem. I thought it was so beautiful. I actually Googled a bit of it to see if it was a poem. And I wish Maggie Gibson was here, so I'm going to try and channel my inner Maggie Gibson if I've got it right. And I'm changing one word at the end. And I'll tell you who wrote it after it, but this is it. Speak loudly or quietly. Insert yourself in places where you're not wanted but entitled to be. Make connections across party lines and in different sectors. Do practical activism, mentor, campaign, organise. Be brave, you're not alone. The power of women's voices down history, across the world, and in Alloa today. I think it's lovely. It was Susan Dalgetty, who's unfortunately not here today, but she has been to Alloa before. But just to finish up, Filia is about the feminism. Like, we're well aware of the threats to women's rights, and we're absolutely determined to do something about it. We want everybody to be as involved as they want to be. So that's me, women's liberation now.